special skills that we can use on a project, like you're a great carpenter or you love to do landscaping, you do great Thanksgiving dinners or something like that.
Thinking about it. It's low. We're close.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start while he's finishing.
Go for it.
I want to thank everybody for showing up. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Alan Bondahar,
Here.
Brad Johnson. Here. Carol Fritz. Here. Kathy Combs.
Here.
Christy Millhouse. Here. Lenny Stevenson. Derek Bondahar.
Here.
Here. Are there two of you?
Yeah.
Jim Ray. Joe Farrell. Carrick Wilson. Kevin Turner. Lori Moneybrake. Mark Bruner. Mary Bullen here. Rodney Miller.
Approval of agenda.
So moved.
Thanks,
Agenda as
Kathy.
presented.
You got a second? Thanks, Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. It's Kirk, is it Paisley?
Just like Brad.
Paisley, he's gonna be here to find all the findings he's found so far. And then we'll go into discussion, and then we're gonna try to limit that 3, 4, 5 minutes per person. That way we're not here till midnight. And I'm sure we'll have more meetings. And I'll turn it over to Kirk.
All right. How about that? Good time. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming tonight. Hopefully my clicker is going to work because, as Mary knows, I don't like to stand still. I can't do that while I'm presenting. So, I'm glad you're all here tonight. And glad you're all interested in finding out at least what I have to say. Hopefully it's what you're looking to hear, and the Fair Board as well. So just to kind of, kind of bring everybody up to speed, if you're not familiar with, the process that's happened up until now, who we are, who I am, and how we got to the point where we are tonight. So tonight we're going to be going over just, kind of an outline of the project. So to bring you up to speed, we'll be talking about the highlights of our facility assessment. And that is the 140-something page document that's sitting in this binder right here, all fresh and ready for the Fair Board members to peruse, complete with photos and descriptions and everything like that. So this constitutes, a couple months worth of work to try and get that information in there, and I know everyone's been anxiously awaiting the results of that. So we'll be talking about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the summary of findings from attending both the Pork Festival and the Preble County Fair. I'm a first-timer at both, so I'm going to offer up my perspective, and it's my opinion only. So don't get too mad at me if I say something that you don't like. Shouldn't be all that bad. Me and my family had a great time. And then we'll be talking a little bit, the Fair Board members who were at our last meeting, we generated some 2-year and 5-year goals. And the reason behind that was trying to make sure that when we're going through this assessment, that we're aligning what should and wants to be done with the goals of the Fair Board to try and make sure that those are jiving together. So we'll review what we found out from that last meeting. They're all on my slides. I was about to say the sheets are still here.
I have
They're
the
kind of cool to
sheets
see.
if you want me to bring them in.
We'll take a break somewhere in the middle here because 2 hours or so is a long time for anybody to sit. I'm a strong believer in nobody should sit longer than an hour. So when we take a break, maybe we can get a break.
I was saying, while you're done talking, just some people may not be familiar with the building, just so you know, the restrooms are at the end of the hallway, so when you get to that break, or if you need to get up, that's where they are. You come out in the hallway and go straight down that way, so. Exactly, I think those are important things to know.
And then finally, while you guys are all here, I'd love to have any input that you can provide. because the more people that provide input on what we're doing, the better the result is going to be. So a little bit about, if this is going to advance, M&A Architects. My name is Kirk Paisley. I am an associate and senior project manager for M&A Architects. M&A has been around for 35 years now, it's our 35th year, and we've been involved on all sorts of projects, ranging from, I need to back up, I'm standing right in front of you. I'm going to move this for right now, then you can see it. Okay, but if you're familiar with, Columbus or Dayton, most of the thing that everybody kind of knows us for is we did Easton Town Center and the Green in Dayton. They're very large projects, ones that we've been involved with for many, many, many years and continue to be involved with as tenants go throughout there. But we were involved with the master planning of both of those projects and how those work. We've also been involved in, some master planning, campuses for the new Bob Evans corporate headquarters, as well as, various residential developments, all over the country. So using all of that knowledge, and especially, the retail background, is something that we were hoping to really apply to, going through a master planning process for the Preble County Fairgrounds, because the fair is really a business. The Work Festival is a business, and so it's interesting to bring the concept of a retail market into a fairgrounds. What a great concept to bring in money for a fair. That'd be awesome. So myself personally, the fair board members here know me now just because we've had a few meetings. But I live in Springfield, Ohio, so I'm not necessarily a Columbusite. I've been there for about 3 or 4 years now and live on 11 acres and, trying my hand at farming for the first time around thanks to Google and YouTube. So I wouldn't even call it farming yet to all the folks who are true farmers here in the room, but we enjoy our handful of goats and a few dozen chickens and things like that, and so do my kids. So, anyway, that's a little bit about me. All right, so anyway, how we are even doing this in the first place. So I want to just talk about, why we're doing a master planning project. So the Preble County Fairgrounds was selected to receive $875,000, which is fantastic, in funds from a state capital budget bill. And so we were contracted to help with trying to figure out how best to spend that money. And the Fair Board was very, forward-thinking and wanting to be strategic about how those dollars got spent. And so here we are today to try and help figure that out. And mostly we want to make sure that we're concentrating on the enhancements that have the most immediate need. Safety, security, health, or anything that may come crumbling down in the next 2 to 5 years. So really that our concentration on trying to fix things is, spend that money in the wisest way possible to make sure that people are, most definitely safe, when they enter the fairgrounds and have a good time when they're coming to the events. Okay, so, what we have been doing, and we're only through the first kind of 3 of these. We're not really to the fun part where we actually get to design and do some master plans and, bring this whole package together. But, really tonight what we're looking at is a recap of our building assessment report. Like I said, if you want some light reading while I'm going through this presentation and want to make your way through 140 pages, by all means, you're more than welcome to look at this. But what this is a whole bunch of pictures of every single structure that's on that site. And analyzing those for code issues, safety issues, all kinds of things. We're also going to look at event analysis, like I talked about early on, and then the fair goals for the next 2 to 5 years. But moving on beyond that, after this meeting, we're going to be looking at some conceptual site master planning, and then finally kind of bringing all the information together, tie it in a neat little bow, and it kind of becomes a roadmap, for the Fair Board moving forward. Not only with the $875,000, but all the thousands and thousands of dollars that they'll be making over the next couple of years once these improvements get done. So, all great stuff. Okay, any questions so far? please feel free to stop me. I don't have any problem with stopping in the middle if there's something that I'm not explaining or explaining too fast, or especially if I'm using an acronym. I have a tendency to use acronyms that maybe not everybody knows. There's a lot of them. Okay, so the building assessment report. That is what you're looking at right here. Here's the Preble County Fair site assessment report. And like I said, this is looking at envelopes, so that's anything on the outside, keeping everything warm, dry, all of the above around each of the structures. And some of them obviously don't have an envelope except for just the roof because they're an open air structure. But the envelope is, we're definitely looking at while we're going through this assessment. We're also looking at the structure holding up that envelope. So the wall framing, the roof framing, any of the foundations that are around there. So all the structure has been looked at every single building out on the fairground site. We're also, paying particular attention to mechanical and electrical. Those two things, if there is a problem or something is done incorrectly or miswired or chewed through by a hog or, whatever, those are the things that can really cause, some catastrophic type of events in any building. You hear all the time on the news, electrical fires, or somebody's stove was on too long and they cut half of their house on fire. So we're definitely paying attention to those mechanical and electrical things. Anybody ever heard of expected useful life? Okay, so expected useful life is what we have been looking at through all of this. So making sure we understand, when we're talking about what needs to be replaced first, what the expected useful life of it is left. So if there's a roof that needs to be replaced in maybe 8 years from now, it's not going to show up on a 2-year plan. So we don't want to spend money before it's ready to be spent, if you don't have to, because as any fairgrounds is going to have, there's a lot of repairs that always need to be done, just regular upkeep to keep it going. We want to concentrate, since we have a boost of funds, on some things that can get over the hump and get it smooth sailing for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And then, like I mentioned, this just a focus on safety, security, and code-related items. I want to talk a little bit about the Ohio Building Code, and I won't bore you for too long, but I want to mention this because it's very important when assessing existing buildings, and more importantly, when you're assessing what needs to be done to those existing buildings. So this is a image on the left of the 2011 Ohio Building Code. It probably sits 10 feet away from my desk every single day because our chief building official sits across the way from me. So he always has this book sitting next to him. But most importantly, on the right, I think I've got a laser. On the right is Chapter 34 of the Ohio Building Code. What Chapter 34 is about existing buildings and structures. And what Chapter 34 does is it allows, mostly it allows existing buildings to be able to stay as they were if they were built according to code, the day they were built. So if they're already in violation of code, yeah, you've got a big problem there, but for the most part, you're dealing with buildings, they were probably compliant the day they were put up, so you really don't have to do anything unless you're making an addition or improvement, taking it out or whatever. So the building code offers you some leeway. So this is some of the statements from there, but structures shall be in compliance with the code at the time of construction, and items are permitted to remain in use unless determined by the building official to be dangerous to life, health, or safety. So that being said, there's a whole lot of items out there that while it may seem like it doesn't meet current code, there's no immediate safety concern because there's no wires hanging out or anything like that. It was built to be safe the day it was built. So that was something that we all kept in mind the entire time we're doing this assessment, because we could come back to you with an entire assessment report and be like, well, you need to fix everything, bring it all up to code. But that's not important. We don't need to be doing that. All right, so we're going to get into some fun pictures. And I will tell you, just from looking through a lot of the reports, Don Brogan in our office, one of our studio directors, registered architect, was the actual guy on the field doing all of this field work. He could not be here tonight. I wish he could have, because he probably has the most in-depth knowledge of this entire facility of just about anybody now, whether he likes it or not. So some of his pictures, from his field assessment, and these are stuff that are right out of this report right here. From the safety, life safety items and things like that, there's only a handful of them, which is great news about the Preble County Fairgrounds. There really is a lot of things that caused us concern for falling down on somebody right away, or catching something on fire, or anything like that. So I'll show you a few of them, just to give you a sampling of what's out there. And we're only talking under 10 kind of items that are of this kind of caliber. So up here, you see a downspout actually coming down, and it's in the perfect spot to hit right over top of this electrical panel. So, that's something that we want to have happen. And I'm poking fun at these, but this is stuff that's, obviously a concern to us, and we want to bring it to the attention of everybody. But there's better pictures moving forward, because really, the fairgrounds is in pretty decent shape. Things like this, where there's just holes in walls, that's not safety and security, but, knowing that there are some buildings out on that site that need some attention, or haven't had some attention for several years, because, maybe more money was put into get some other facilities that were of greater need. I mean, partition on the outside of where the restrooms are may not be the highest priority. So, I could definitely tell, from going through the report, and Don could as well, that the maintenance staff out there has done a great job of prioritizing what needed to be done first, because the stuff is, pretty minimal in my opinion, or something that will need to be replaced in the near future, but not right now. Up here on the right, things like 220 outlets just, dangling through a wire, not placing conduit and things like that. That's always, of a concern to us, especially since this one is actually a picture inside the Expo Center. So that being a brand new building, we would expect it to be, kind of up to current code. So things like that. This is kind of the next step up from, those safety and security type things. We didn't foresee that there were any buildings out there that are going to come crashing down, in the near future. But there are some buildings out there that, are, structurally starting to sag. They're getting old, things like that. So you see a huge dip in here. But the reason because of that is there's actually a rafter scabbed onto another rafter up here. So, and then deteriorating kind of siding. I think these are actually a couple of the horse barns that are right off the track. These are some of the worst ones that I'm showing you, so don't think that this is the quality of the stuff out there at the fairgrounds if you haven't been there for a little while. Everything is actually looking pretty great. And then just other, miscellaneous things, downspouts missing here, wires just need to be, tightened up, if we've had a heater up against a panel, we probably ought to move the panel, things like that. But nothing, like I said, that causes anybody some great concern. And, but this is really the quality of what's out there at the fairgrounds now. So this is what's fantastic about it, because there's not all that bad. So there's a huge amount of opportunity, when we get through the hot button, 10 or so items. And I asked Don, like, so Don, how much are you going to spend to fix those, like, really hot and heavy ones? He's like, oh, I'd be surprised if they spent $1,000 to fix a few things that are really dangerous right now. So, we see this as the front entryway of the historic building. I mean, a lot of care has obviously gone into, stabilizing that thing. I know in the last master plan report that was done, that was in pretty poor condition, or was marked as poor condition. But obviously a lot of work has gone in, at least a fresh coat of paint to make sure it's not rotting to pieces. But we've got quite a few new buildings. So here's the office, one of the storage buildings over here. But most of the buildings are kind of that quality as you go across the fairgrounds. So great news. Fantastic. So good job, everybody. So, just kind of to recap on the building assessment, I could spend all night talking about everything that's in this building assessment, but I'm not going to go through all that because you guys are here to give input. So just trying to get through it quickly, and I want to, talk about some of the other things. So if you do have any questions, specific to things, out there, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those, especially the fair board members, because you'll obviously be looking at more particulars beyond this. But this is just a broad overview of what we found when we were out there. So only a few handful of hazardous conditions. A few buildings are in poor conditions. So, and I think these are probably ones that most people who are out at the fairgrounds know are in the worst conditions. So the produce building, the horse barns, and there's a storage barn right by those horse barns near the track. They're all you know, getting kind of old and need a little bit of TLC. So there's a lot of roofs and exteriors that are out there that are kind of reaching their end of their expected useful life. They're not leaking like a sieve or anything like that, but it's, you know, stuff that's you know, needs to be attended to in the next few years or so. But, you know, most of the buildings are in good sound condition. There's a lot of newer structures, and obviously there's a good maintenance plan currently in place, or else we wouldn't be finding what we're finding out there. Okay, any questions about the building assessment? Awesome. If I'm moving too fast, please let me know. I get excited, so I like to talk real fast about it. All right, so the event analysis findings. This was a lot of fun for me, and especially fun for my family. Mary knows me well and has met my kids. A couple are lack volume control, so because they get real excited. My kids are 8, 5, and almost 3 years old, and my middle child is the one that lacks volume control. He just can't do it. There is no inside voice; it's all outside voice. But they loved coming to festivals like this and eating and, you know, having the cotton candy and doing all of the crafts, and they didn't even ride any rides, but they had a great time, you know, just walking around and seeing animals and everything like that. So like I said, my family came with me to the Pork Festival. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it to the Preble County Fair with me, but I want to share with you some of the findings that I found just attending as a complete visitor, complete stranger to the fairgrounds, and what I found. So here's the cool stuff that I found. At the Preble County Fair, I mean, it was total family oriented. I had no problem having my kids there, and, you know, people were nice and courteous, and everyone was friendly, and everyone was there with their families too. It was a great time to be there. There was a huge focus on agriculture and rural education. You know, starting up very early myself in the farming kind of thing. I love to surround myself with any kind of ag education I can possibly get, learning from folks like these. And this was a great event to learn like that. I mean, there's lots of people to talk to, and, you know, everyone was more than willing to answer any questions if, you know, if you wanted to know about how they, you know, sheared their sheep or, you know, trimmed their goats' hooves or whatever. So. But it was really low-key and enjoyable event. I actually came during one of the, I think Thursday or Friday, so in the middle of the week. It wasn't over the weekend. So my specific experiences had to do with a nice low-key, enjoyable thing. But like I said, perfect for those who are looking to get involved with, you know, 4-H or first-time farmers like myself, or any kind of animals. So really cool to, you know, kind of, you know, down-home kind of feel to it. The fair was really great for me. I loved it. And the Pork Festival, I brought the whole family, my sister-in-law, her fiance, all my kids, everyone came, went out around all the crafts, and, you know, I think we spent like 4 hours in the expo center as my kids went around to every single tasting booth and eating about 15 pretzels and dipping in, you know, 20 different jellies and jams and whatever. So the crafts, specialty foods, everything was great. The smorgasbord, I don't think I fully digested for about 2 days after I got done with the smorgasbord. That was great fun. And again, you know, the focus still seemed to be on family, agricultural, and rural education, even though they're two entirely different events. So still keeping the same theme, and that you know, kind of ties in with the mission statement, which we'll review, you know, later. So really cool that everything. The two major events that are at the fairgrounds really tie back to the mission of the Agricultural Society, so pretty fantastic. All right, like I said, I attended the smorgasbord. There's my daughter right here, one of my sons, and the loudmouth is probably running around somewhere around here. My wife is, you know, pushing the stroller up there. It's usually empty because nobody wants to ride in it until the very end. But like I said, we went to the smorgasbord. It was great fun. And we also, you know, came during a midday of the week. We weren't there on Saturday when it was, you know, extremely packed because with 3 kids. What's that? What's that? Was it the weekend? We must have come on Sunday then.
You were there Sunday.
And it wasn't as
Thanks
busy.
for reminding me, Mary.
It wasn't as busy on Sunday.
Okay, I was there on Sunday.
It all on Wednesday.
Yeah,
It was
no.
great.
I go on Wednesday.
Anyway, but and for both the for the fair this is kind of how I came in. Since I come from Springfield, I'm coming from 127 and I-70 right down 122. And, just to kind of show how traffic flows into here, unless you are one of those very important folks or, volunteer or exhibitors, you're not coming in the entrance where the, the fancy little building is out there, the historic building. But most folks are coming down here, paying through their booth and parking somewhere. And I had the very good fortune during the fair to park right there. Which is great. That's pretty close. I found a nice little open spot. But what I found once I parked, even though I had this map before I even got here, I kind of put it away on purpose. I didn't look at it, as I was driving out to Eaton. And I'm like, I don't know where to go. Or there's so many places I can go. I'm not sure which one is the right one. Can I go through, these little buildings over here to get over there? Or is that exhibitor traffic only? Or only folks that have animals go back in there? So I couldn't quite figure out where I needed to go. So that was one of the first findings that I found out when I walked on that site. And so, but what I did find out was, when you come from the parking, it's kind of the main drag and the main entrance. But if you look at that, and I'm looking back at it, that's, kind of the entrance. These two really great barricades at the end. But what I kept seeing in all the literature and the thing that got me excited as far as an opportunity, especially since we're putting together this master plan, was, maybe an entrance can turn into something more like this. It's on all the postcards and brochures and things like that. So I found myself really, lacking and looking for where the entrance was. Whether there's just one entrance and everybody can still kind of enter through all kinds of other places, but I was, just looking for a place that's, okay, here's where I start in the right spot, and I wasn't sure if I was. And then as I, kind of moved through the festival, there's several buildings that say exactly what they are. They got a horse on them, they've got a rabbit on them, they've got whatever. But I got my wife there, and the first thing she says is, "Where are the goats?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's a goat on one of the buildings I can't find. So, I found myself having to always refer back to a map to try and, figure my way around the festival. So that was, one of my other, kind of findings. That it seemed, there were some good things as far as marking out some buildings, but it seemed like it could always be better to guide, people who aren't as familiar with the fair to places that they want to get to, or the specific places that they're trying to get to. And then I'm going to do my little feature on the smorgasbord, because I did have a good time. I ate there for like an hour, and I shouldn't have. But even though I'm a little guy, I can put that in a little bit. So here's the smorgasbord, and more specifically, I want to focus on this little area. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit. So one of the other, main things, and I'm always a, traffic flow and sequence and, getting through places kind of guy, because I want to go the easiest way possible. I want to know right where I'm going, and I want to know where I'm ending, so I can, strategically plan where I'm going to next. That's just how I'm wired. It's probably because I'm an architect, but, that's how I can. So when, I went to the pork smorgasbord, first I was starting to look for it, and I finally found the red flags that said, smorgasbord on it, so I, entered through there and started milling my way, through the cattle lines. But if you see the path up here, and if you haven't gone through the smorgasbord, it kind of weaves in through, behind the produce building and in between this little crack, and then building number 23, I think is what it says up here. Is where the food is, but then you got to loop back around and get your drinks and your pies and all that kind of stuff, and you'll find yourself in the big building here or in one of the tents. It works. It works good. But it could be something that could work better and be more straightforward and have a more pronounced entrance. And, I'd love to be able to see, like as I'm eating these big pork pits, because I find it so fascinating that there's probably, I don't know, anybody here know numbers from Pork Festival, how many pork chops are on the grill?
There's over 95,000 pounds of pork down there.
95,000 pounds of pork. I'd love to put that thing right out in the street. Pull a Cinnabon on everybody, make everybody smell the pork chops as they're driving by to get them to pull into the front entrance. I think it's fantastic. So, but then the one other thing about the smorgasbord is as I went to leave, I had to go out and really out, like outside of the, the limits of the festival, and I wanted to go back in. I wasn't done eating. I wanted to eat and just go home. I wanted to eat. I wanted to go back in and eat some more. Silly. But I found myself having to travel back in. So anyway, there's just one thing that's out there. It's a major, component of the pork festival. And, I know that folks are dealing with the buildings that are out there and what is the best. But like I said, how cool could it be if, the main event, the smorgasbord, that everybody's there to smell for. At least that's what I came for, was to eat. My wife came for the crafts. But how cool could it be if it were out the street, bringing people in. And the same thing goes with the fair. Find the thing that is the most exciting to everybody coming in there and put it right out the street. I mean, it should be a big Ferris wheel. It should be, games out there. It should be whatever. Acting as its own billboard as you're driving along that street, because the first impression is so important to anybody coming to an event. If they don't see what they want, imagine yourself if you're an avid garage sailor, as you're driving down a busy highway, and you kind of slow down. My wife and I call this garage sale creeping. But you're driving, you slow down, you're kind of looking at their pile, and you're like, no, that's not for me. We don't need 2-year-old baby stuff. We have enough of that, so we keep on driving. People do the same thing when they're trying to decide if they want to stop. They want it to be easy. And same thing goes with, just as something as simple as going to the gas station. How many people like to go to a gas station on the left side of the street? Now, if there's one a mile down the road that you're going to pass a little bit later, even if it's a little bit more expensive, but it's on the right side of the street, you're going to go to that one first because it's easier. So making sure it's easy for people to get into a facility and it's something that they want to go to is the key to getting people in, at least the first thing, and keeping them there is obviously the second. So as far as opportunities go, improving sequence. So as you drive in off of 122, park your car, get into the front, and then go to wherever you want to get to the fairgrounds, I see a nice opportunity for improving the sequence through there. And then signage and wayfinding. Making sure that people know what building is where, or even an arrow pointing to something that's on the other side of the fairgrounds. So if the building's not right in front of them, they know where they're headed to without walking around with a map. And then making vendors more visible. I'll go back to one of the earlier pictures I had here. I think these are actually pictures from, no, this can't be from the Pork Festival.
No, that's a fair.
Because I'm seeing a cow right here. Okay, it's not Pork Festival. But one thing I did notice was there are a lot of vendors that were kind of tucked into buildings. And, vendors love to be, right on, the main drag. They want to be out in front of everybody. So, great opportunity, for making vendors more visible. I'm not sure any of you vendor would tell you that. The view along 122 being a showcase and that first impression, there's a nice opportunity there. Improving the parking entrance and exiting for high volumes. Any of you who come on Saturday for Pork Festival, I heard that thing got parked out, by the end of the day. It was maxed out. But trying to get in, you're talking lines on 122. Trying to get out, you're sitting in your car for a little while to get out. So an opportunity to try and figure out, how to deal with higher volumes. Kind of looking to some larger facilities, the Disney Worlds and the Columbus Zoo and places like that to see how they deal with, heavy volumes. And it's, strategic where they, place larger roads or how they get people out. A place like the Columbus Zoo, they only have a single lane road to get out. But they have a lot of cattle lines before they even get to that spot, so it doesn't seem like you're waiting forever and you're driving past stuff. So it isn't always necessary to have a 5-lane road to get in and out to make things work. But there's at least an opportunity, and that's part of our, job moving forward to come up with that master plan to say what's the biggest bang for your buck that's going to get people in and out of here the fastest. And then again, making it easy for visitors like myself, especially first-time folks, because the way obviously to make some more dollars at the Pork Festival and the fair is to get people that have never been there before. Okay, that's kind of the conclusion of my event findings. Everybody good? I had a great time. Any questions? Okay. We're doing good. I was planning on an hour for this part of it, so we're doing awesome. I'm great on time. Okay. I'm going to go over, this was the last meeting for the Fair Board, just to kind of recap. We'll show a couple of the images and some things that we went over. But what we started with when we were doing this goal setting session, among other things, was we started with the mission statement. And I highlighted a few things here because what's really interesting is, from my findings, going to the events, was this is exactly what I found when I was out there. The mission statement is kicking on all cylinders. It's great. I mean, the people are promoting and enhancing agricultural, rural education, and local economic development. It's there. I mean, it's great. So the mission statement is working. The Fair Board is staying true to the mission, and everything is doing fantastic. So when we started off with these goals, I don't think that I didn't have a slide when we did this, but we talked about SMART goals. If you haven't heard of SMART goals, SMART is an acronym, and it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And what's important about that is if you are setting goals, and say your goal is, I want to be the best fair. Okay. The best fair where? The best fair in Ohio? Best fair in these 8 counties around us, and what do you exactly want to achieve? And then the second part of that, you could say I want to be the best fair in Ohio, but how do you know when you got there? Is it somebody who's going to write a report that ranks all of the fairs in all the state of Ohio and says, okay, yeah, you got the 99.9 score out of 100, you are the top fair in Ohio. So when we're looking at all these goals, we're making sure that what we're saying about them actually has, some kind of quantity attached to it, a time frame attached to it, all those kinds of things. We're making sure they're smart. And this is, the best way to go about goal setting, because if you just set a goal that can't ever be achieved, it'll just always end up on your goals and you'll never know that you got there. And it kind of gets depressing if you have a goal on there for so long and you don't feel like you're getting there, because everyone thinks it means something different to get there. So here's actually some of the pictures of things that we did. First we went over event positives and event negatives. So these are some of those boards, and I'll get to the text you can actually read. You don't have to read my chicken scratch up there. And then we went on to generating some 2-year goals and 5-year goals. And the reason why we made it 2-year goals instead of 1-year goal is because in 2 years is when all this $875,000 is going to be spent. So we're tying the 2 years to the time when that money needs to go out the door. All right, so the event positives, and I highlighted a few on here, especially because the positives are, again, aligning with the mission statement, really, awesome stuff. So family, and I completely agree with it, attending the event. Agriculture, education, community was an event positive, junior fair oriented, and most importantly, there's economic advantage for local vendors. I mean, the fair and the pork festival are a huge economic driver for this county. And the fairgrounds could be an even bigger economic driver for local businesses as things start to get enhanced and more events come out there. So while family and community and agriculture, education, and those are really important as far as the mission statement goes, community economic development is very important. And especially moving forward when the Fair Board makes decisions on how to spend this large sum of money from the grant. So there's all kinds of other things up here. For those who don't know the numbers, and I didn't know them until the Fair Board shared them with me at the last meeting, but the tractor pulls are bringing in 40,000 to 50,000 people. The fair is bringing in about 45,000 people, and the pork festival is bringing about 80,000 to 90,000 people. So pretty cool. What's that?
More than that. That was just a one-day Saturday.
Fantastic. What's the final number? Because I want to know.
It's around 120.
120,000 people. Killer. All right. So event negatives, and I think you'll see this kind of running all the way through, goals and what people want to fix right away. All the ladies in the room would love to see some more restrooms and nicer restrooms, including my wife. The first thing that she does when she gets to any event is, where are the real restrooms at? Because I'm not using the porta-john. So, of course, I have my map, so I was able to tell her exactly where they were, and Mary flew me in before I could. So the restrooms was a big thing. Traffic flow, we talked about it as a big negative. Lighting is something in particular, and you don't really think about it because the fair, as a visitor at least, the fair runs through the day, Pork Festival runs through the day, but before we get there, there's vendors and farmers and kids and all those kind of folks bringing stuff in the dark. I mean, it gets pretty dark out there on the fairgrounds, so it's hard to move around. So a lot of folks have talked about, some of these event negatives, that there wasn't enough lighting. So like I said, you don't really think about it being an outside visitor because you're there during the daytime. You don't think about this, somebody else had to do this during the dark. So signage and wayfinding we've already talked about, and then just kind of the first impression as you drive down the street. Is it something I want to go to and stop at, or do I just keep driving? It seems okay. All right, and then moving on to the goals that were generated so far, and this is not an exhaustive list, and this is why you guys are here, and this is why I have my board out here and my pretty markers to continue to generate goals and things like that, and any comments that you guys might have. So we're going to expand on this, and I'm sure whittle it down once we get to the next step, because you can't do everything in 2 years, but it's obviously deciding on what the best use of money and especially time. And get through there. So, some folks talked about grandstand upgrades, purchasing some new pens, because I think a lot of them are rented right now. Horse barn upgrades, you saw in the assessment report that several of them are in kind of disrepair or old. Not dangerous, but old. Just infrastructure improvements, so that's roads, ways, that's utilities, that's, any of the electrical hookups for camping, that type of stuff. Physical appearance in general, and everyone wants to do that, and that's just an ongoing battle to make sure everything looks nice and pretty. Not everybody can have brand new pre-engineered metal buildings for every single building on their fairgrounds, but we'd love to. And then, right along with that SMART goals, there was, a 2-year goal of a 10% increase in revenue, and that's, after you've cut all of your losses and your expenses, that's the money that's left over. So 10%, it's a great number. It's a really great goal. And I think it's definitely achievable for any organization to get to a 10% revenue increase, just by doing things better. And then doing year-round events. And I think this is a really critical thing, and one I've been thinking about as we've been working through our master plan and how we're going to design this, because while a lot of our time and input is focused on Pork Festival and the fair, there are so many other events that could be out here and that may want to be here, and we need to make sure that we're thinking about what we need to be doing to accommodate those folks, the unknowns, the people that we don't know that could be out here. So we have to think about every possible person that could be out on the fairground site, because what a fantastic thing would it be to have something going on every single weekend at the fairgrounds. Talk about some economic development. That'd be awesome. So improving the bottom line, having some more dedicated storage. I think storage is kind of all over the place out there. Of course, more restrooms, internet capability, like Wi-Fi kind of thing out there on the fairgrounds. And then, some more website activity, getting more of the folks my age, late 20s, early 30s, to get involved in fair type stuff, because right now, there really is a huge push and a huge group of folks that are my age that are coming into farming and agriculture for the very first time. Call them hipsters or hippies or whatever you want to call them, but it's folks who really want to have something a little bit better, or at least know exactly where the stuff came from, for their kids. So I actually have about 4 or 5 couple friends. I mean, these are folks that started up their farms within the last 5 years for the very first time. Folks that came from the Beaver Creeks of the world, or lived in Troy or Upper Arlington and Columbus, I mean, folks who weren't even allowed to have a farm animal in their backyard are now turning around and trying to figure this stuff out. So they're kind of flocking to events to try and learn as much as they can, because it's really hard if you're stuck on your lot and you have all this time devoted to, handling animals, that FaceTime with people who know what they're doing is so valuable. So the more website activity can help. That's how a lot of those folks, like to communicate and look at stuff, and Facebook pages and, what. All right, and then 5-year goals, these are getting more towards pie in the sky. We haven't even gotten to like 10-year goals. We kind of capped it at 5 years the last time, and I think we could even go beyond this. So, everything kind of changes on a 5-year period, so I'm sure that, the Fair Board, once, we get through all the stuff and we've accomplished all these 5-year goals, everything changes again. And, maybe you didn't accomplish some of the ones that are in the 2 years, so that still kind of stays on there, but all these need to be continually updated and revamped. So event every weekend, 300 complete camp spots with full hookup was one of the 5-year goals. That would be pretty cool, because I know there's a waiting list to get camping spots, during both events. Barns for 100 more horses. So I think there's 140 pens right now for the horses. I want to double that in 5 years. Bringing the iconic fair elements back. So that's archway that goes in there, the Ferris wheel at the front, really bringing the historic buildings back to life. So they're really the iconic elements and the heart and soul of what happens at this fairgrounds. A new office structure was actually brought up. This is a great idea. I don't remember who brought it up or thought of it, but someone threw out the idea of having a new office structure with heated and cooled multi-purpose room. So people could really go out there, so they're not in the Bruner building, during the fair. It could really be the headquarters of everything going out there. And more importantly, it could be, a driver bringing outside folks in to use office space in there as well, to bring them to the fairgrounds. The more folks that you can drive to the fairgrounds, the better, because they're only helping to, increase the amount of events that are out there and drive economic development. And then new hog building is on here. And then I think this is just naturally going to come, as things, get so much better with, these improvements and, following this pathway. Getting corporate sponsorships, especially local ones first. I mean, there's some great corporations that are, in Preble County and Eaton that I'm sure would love to support the Preble County Fairgrounds all year long. And as, some of these improvements, come into play on there, they'll be, so happy to put their name on a building because it'll look so much better when the improvements get done. Okay. Look at that. I was supposed to talk to 7 about all this stuff and I did it. Great. Okay, so now it's your guys' turn. So we're going to do some idea generation with you guys. We'd love to have your input on anything you've seen tonight. I'm going to get out my board and my pretty colored markers.